park further away. Have like a timer on your phone at the top of every hour. Get up, do some squats, some kind of movement at the top of the hour or right before a meeting. It's stress, then it's chronic stress, and then it's burnout. So chronic stress is just all the different stressors that pile up that are not addressed. They're not managed. When that happens, that's when burnout happens. So walking is honestly the most underrated exercise there is. It's something that you can do every day without having to worry about recovering like you would in the gym. It's really accessible. It's free. You can do it all the time.
Burnout, I feel like, is an avoidable end state to sustain stress.
The wellness days, whether it is quarterly, if you have monthly meetings already with the staff, if it's mandatory, how can you incorporate a mindfulness session? Some type of education or workshop around recognizing the signs of stress, especially for the management team, how they are the front line when it comes to like the rest of the team and the staff. They should recognize signs of burnout, yes, within themselves, but also within the people that they lead.
All right, so we are back with another episode of the Bowles Report. If we haven't met yet, my name is Brian Oles, and we are talking about workplace burnout. And so I had to grab one of Baltimore's own. We have Tyneka Pack. She is from IMPACKT Fitness, and we're going to be talking all about burnout, which I actually have a lot to say about this topic. But first of all, welcome, Tyneka. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I am doing great. How are you?
I'm so great. Thank you so much for joining us with this. I feel like fitness has really like shaped you as a person. And we talk about this conversation around wellness, holistic health, especially in the corporate space and how to, bridge the gap in our workplaces. Very, very important topic. And so for the uninitiated, could you just tell the folks a little bit about your journey, how you got started in the fitness wellness space and kind of what brought you to this point? And then we'll dive into some more specifics.
Oh, that is so good. Okay. So literally the longest story short, my fitness journey started in 2013. Started going to the gym as far as trying to find a new hobby, something to do. So I figured, why not go to the gym? In the midst of all that, I ended up meeting this group of women who I ended up working out with, but I didn't know that they all competed in bodybuilding competitions. I was just there for the community. Like, that's all I wanted. I ended up competing because, you kind of get that when you're around that crowd. So I ended up competing in bodybuilding, did 10 shows, got my pro card, all the things. And I ended up helping one of my best friends lose weight for a surgery that she had to get done. So she was like my first undercover client. I had so many people inquire about like, do you train people? And I'm like, no, because I have a coach myself. But I got certified, took her on undercover. We got her results. And then I'm like, wow, this really did that. And we met our goals. And then that's when I started IMPACKT Fitness. So that officially launched at the end of 2017, on paper, 2018. So it all just started off with just me coaching folks in person, mainly women. But prior to that, I was doing employee benefits. So I am licensed in health and life insurance. So I guess if we're counting now to this day, I've been in that industry for like 17 and a half-ish years, believe it or not. So
don't correct.
Well, right. So I was just like, well, if I have this background in benefits and now this, business and fitness, if we put it together, that is literally corporate wellness. So we started introducing that arm of IMPACKT Fitness probably about 3 years ago, slowly. But now it's become a bigger part of like what we offer now.
Yes, that's so cool. So you started off just trying to get into a community, trying to basically you took it as like a personal challenge, and then it evolved. Like your goal wasn't to launch a wellness, fitness, corporate wellness brand. You literally just started from within and then slowly started to move on. I love that.
Yeah. And what's crazy is before the stage, before competing, before fitness, like I used to be super shy. Like I would never be on a mic. I hated public speaking. Like I would sweat so much. Like I very, very shy, right? But something shifted during my fitness journey. And that was even before I stepped on stage. Like fitness for me transformed me completely. So by the time I actually stepped on stage, now if for folks who have never seen like a bodybuilding competition, like you're literally on stage in a bedazzled bikini, right? Flexing.
I did see the
And just,
pictures. Yeah,
yeah,
you're like doing the, gotta.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And you would think somebody who hated being like on stage would be like fearful, but I mean, you always get the jitters, you get the nerves, but like once you're on stage, it's just like a whole new world. So fitness for me really changed my confidence. So of course that changed like my world, whether I was walking into an event, whether I was now on like podcasts and speaking, like everything changed for me and people around me noticed like the evolution of me before fitness and me after fitness and just the transformation that I experienced. So my overall goal with Impact Fitness, with coaching women, is for them to experience that confidence change, whether or not they decide to step on stage. But fitness, wellness has the power to transform your life in so many ways. So that was really my why.
I believe that. I believe that on so many levels. My introduction or my reintroduction, I feel like fitness and I have flirted with each other over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a on again, off again, will they, won't they? And
Yeah.
a friend of mine challenged me to do 100 push-ups like a year and a half ago. And 100 push-ups a day for like 30 days. And I'm like, I can't do 100 push-ups. And he's like, can you do 25? I'm like, maybe. I don't know. He's like, well, can you do 10? I was like, yeah, I can sit down and bust out 10 push-ups. He's like, well, just do 10 throughout the day and then, do 10 sets of 10. And then that got me going. And I was like, oh, okay. And you start seeing things that you don't expect. You're able to sprint up a set of stairs that
Yeah.
used to tire you out, or
Yeah.
it's so many spillover benefits that I want to kind of get into here, especially as we kind of get into the workplace conversation. But I love seeing people's entry points into this space because I know for me, that was one of the catalysts. And then a lot of times, once you get over that initial inertia, like if you could just
Mhm.
keep going, and God, I had no coach. I can't imagine how amazing it is to have somebody like you that's like, no, you're picking that up wrong. Do it like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And I will say, yeah, definitely having a coach makes a world of difference because it's always the smallest tweaks that honestly makes the biggest difference. But yeah.
So in the workplace, so I spent 11 years working in like a corporate environment. I've worked in I've done it all. I mean, you and I were talking before the show. My first job was retail, so I was pushing carts and cleaning up floors. I've worked in offices. I've run around conferences, and so I've experienced different types of workplace environments, and they all have different levels of strain on your body. One of the things I really appreciate about your content is that you tend to talk about health in a very well-rounded sense. I've heard you talk
Yeah.
about sleep. I've heard you talk about nutrition. I've heard you talk about fitness, and then also, the mental piece as well. From your perspective, what's a great starting place in the conversations when a woman is coming to you with an impact? What is the place where, like, do you provide like a general assessment, or how do you kind of get a good starting point of where someone should start their fitness journey?
Yeah. So that's a great question. Yeah. I do start with some kind of questionnaire assessment survey just to kind of see where they are. For all of our services, we have to meet folks where they are. So if someone is coming to me that's super busy, has tried um, working out before, but for whatever reason it didn't work, what are their barriers? Is it time? Is it just knowing where to start? Like, what is their barrier to entry? And my goal is to start small. So like you were saying with your push-ups, 100 push-ups, trying to do all that, that's crazy. But if you break it down into smaller bite-sized things, and then you can build up to the bigger picture. So that's the standpoint, that's the perspective that I always enter um, when doing a consult with a new client. So if they say, "Oh, I don't have time," well, you do technically. Uh, can you block off 20 minutes in the morning? Let's start with 3 days a week. Is that doable? Perfect. We start to build that foundation. If their obstacle is nutrition, which I feel like that's most of us. I feel like that's most of us. Okay, well, what's one small shift that we can make? If someone skips breakfast every day, well, can we incorporate a small snack at breakfast? Right. So just kind of figuring out where they are, what probably needs addressing the most. If they're sitting at their desk for most of the day and not moving at all, fine. Can you do like a chair mobility routine for 5 minutes at the beginning of your day before you open up your laptop? Can you do it again when you close your laptop?
And what is that? What's a chair mobility routine?
So mobility is catering to your joints. So whether it's your spine, making sure there's movement in your spine, movement in your hips, movement in your neck, things like that. Because if we're sitting all day hunched over a computer, like that starts to affect our posture. All right. So,
Yes.
and a lot of people, when they think about fitness, starting my fitness journey, starting to work out, the top thing that pops in their head is cardio. So, for those of you watching, just think of day one of you going to the gym or day one of you starting your fitness journey. 9 times out of 10, you probably just started on the treadmill, on the elliptical, going for a walk. Okay, so cardio is usually the first thing that comes to mind. The second thing is your weight training. So that's with dumbbells, barbells, using the gym machine. So those are the top two. But people often forget flexibility for your muscles and mobility for your joints, which is going to be the most important. So mobility is greatly impacted by sitting all day. So that's why I said if people are at their desk all day, can you do 5 minutes before and after? That's 10 minutes of your day. But the goal is to get them to start somewhere, to start building that habit and creating it into their routine before we go on to the next step.
I love that. One of the things I noticed when I first started working in corporate America, and
Yeah.
here is my sample schedule, by the way.
Okay. Okay.
Wake up 6 a.m. or ish, 6:30,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes 7, whatever.
Okay.
30-minute commute, got to be there at 8. Walk from, like you said, breakfast, maybe not, maybe something quick, not a lot of thought going into it, really just trying to wake up and get going. My body is like, why are you awake? Fine. Get into the car, drive 35 minutes. So that's 35 minutes of sitting. Get to the office, short little walk, probably didn't take the steps, took the elevator up, sit
Mm-hmm.
in a seat. And then from 8 o'clock to maybe 11, unless there's a meeting or something, I'm kind of in that seat. 11 to 12 or whatever lunch is, I might pop out, grab something to eat. Again, not walking anywhere because we're in these corporate parks, right? And so
Yeah.
you're not really walking to get lunch, depending on where you are. But in my particular case, I was jumping in the car, going to go get lunch
Uh-huh.
or eating my lunch, coming back to desk, working again, driving back home, and then, kind of 6 or 7, even if it's, working a little bit over, get off of work. And then I'm like almost too tired to do anything else. And so
Literally.
for a person with that sample schedule, what advice would you give to, I'm giving advice to my past self, but to people in
Okay.
that situation, what advice would you give to kind of just jumpstart the journey there? We talked about chair mobility
Mm-hmm.
and just little things, because I didn't realize how, I guess the word is how it's a very sneaky thing that pops up. You don't realize how much mobility you're losing, like not being able to turn and things like that, until
Mm-hmm.
you go to try to do something on the weekend and you're like, oh no. So like, what
Right.
advice would you give to people who are mostly sedentary?
Oh, okay. Okay. So if you can wake up 15 minutes earlier, if you could wake up 15 minutes earlier and move your body when you get out of bed, because think about it, like if you get the proper amount of sleep, you're laying still, quote unquote, for 7 hours, right? So you want to make sure that your body is moving first thing in the morning. We can come back to the Savers method if we end up talking about like the holistic wellness approach. We'll come back to that. But if you can move your body first thing in the morning, like I said, if you're parking at the parking lot, park further back. We always try to find the parking spot nearest to the door. Don't do that. Like you
That's
have
like the victory. Like, oh, I pulled in right there.
yeah, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Right. We have to find ways to sneak in movement if we're not intentionally making time for it, which we should. So if you could 15 minutes in the morning, if you could just not snooze, like don't snooze. If you snooze 3 times, just snooze 2, just forego the last one and just get up and move, right? So yes, park further away. At the top of every hour, have like a timer on your phone. At the top of every hour, get up, do some squats, some kind of movement at the top of the hour or right before a meeting. If you are working in a building, if there is a bathroom on the 4th floor and you're on the 2nd floor, go to the 4th floor bathroom. Don't go to the one around the corner. Okay. Because that's another way that you could sneak in your steps.
Yes.
Yes. If you have a meeting that you don't have to be on camera for, you just have to be there, maybe talk, walk and talk, do your meeting while you're walking, go outside, get some fresh air. Your camera on, anybody gonna know, right?
Love that. Great tip. That's a great tip.
Yes, go take it outside. Go take your call outside. If you have your hour for lunch, eat first, walk right immediately after.
I have started doing that just in general. So that's just a general best practice to get the digestion kickstarted and everything.
Yeah, that too, especially for those who are like pre-diabetic or diabetic, it helps combat that sugar spike as well. Yes. So those are some tips besides, just being intentional about the movement. Just try to find little ways to increase your movement throughout the day. And even just doing things at home, like cleaning, washing your car, doing laundry, even though it's not like an intentional workout, you are still moving your body, exerting some kind of energy. So at the end of the day, that is still going to count for movement. That's still going to count for calories burned. Just try to find different pockets throughout the day that you can do something active, even if it's just for 5 minutes.
And are you a big fan of gamification? Like, are you into Fitbits, Apple Watch, Google Watch, keeping track of steps? I know the calorie are not real, whatever, they put on there, but are you a fan of trying to like gamify that for people and your clients?
Yeah, so I think all of my clients have some type of watch. So, some of the numbers are accurate, some of them are not, but the goal is like if their average throughout the week, their steps, let's just say is 4,000. And I say, okay, well, next week, let's see if we can get to an average of 5 or an average of 6. That is their average on their watch according to their movement, right? Even if the numbers are kind of off from normal, if that makes sense, that's still going to track relative, if that makes sense.
You get a good baseline and then you know where to work from. So yeah, no, I think that's perfect.
Yeah. So that's how we do it.
That's good to know. Yeah, I sometimes just chasing that number is enough because I'm like, man, 10,000 steps. Yesterday I knew I did 8. Day before I did 5. We're trending in the wrong direction, so you can like move that up, and you can start to see like, okay, 45 minutes. Even if you're on a treadmill or you're walking around a specific area, it's going to be equivalent to this amount of steps. So you can kind of build that into your day.
Exactly. And then just not only that. I have them, use it to kind of gauge their steps. And then 2, for their heart rate. So when they're doing cardio, like there's different cardio zones. So if their primary goal is fat burning, okay, well, your heart rate should be in your zone 2. So it's a range of this and this. So they'll use their watch to kind of make sure that they're staying in that general heart rate zone.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
So with corporate wellness, let's jump over to that place because you have a background in benefits, and so now you've seen both sides of this. Yeah. From your perspective, what are employers' responsibility as it relates to supporting the wellness of their employees? Like, what would you like to see companies doing, healthy workplaces doing to support the overall, you know, wellness of their employees? Should they be, um, you know, like, should there be like just like a wellness break throughout the day? Should there be, like, I guess, what are those signals of a strong workplace culture that is optimized around wellness?
Yeah. I definitely think even just to start, it's good to have an assessment or survey of your team to know like their stress level, their burnout levels, things like that. Um, Companies who do typically have like a EAP, one thing that I noticed when with benefits, an active enrollment or an active slash engaging kind of initiative is always going to trump anything that's passive. Example, um, one of the benefits that I always enrolled was Aflac. Everybody knows the duck. Everybody knows that. However, comma, we got the most participation when we were on site, active, engaging, speaking to the employees so that they understood what it was. Other benefits that are on some platform that they got to go on, take the time to do all these things, like they're not really going to do that. So I noticed the participation in the active enrollments versus the passive enrollments are like night and day. And I
Mm-hmm.
say the same thing goes with wellness benefits. So companies who have an EAP, yeah, that's great. It could be used. However, what can you do that will engage your employees, that creates that team building, that creates that culture of community? And you can't do that directly through an EAP. Could that be, yes, having a quarterly wellness day for your staff? One of my clients that
Ooh, I like that.
a quarterly wellness day. I have okay, there's so many ideas that's just flowing right now. But one of my clients, they give their staff, I believe it's 8 hours a month for wellness that they have to take. They use it or they lose it. So you know
Eight,
they're going to
eight,
use
eight,
it.
eight, 8 hours to
eight
just
hours a month
go do something wellness related.
wellness related,
Nice. Okay.
including a stipend, for, like I think like a $50 stipend for something wellness related, because we know that the most important asset for any business is not the bottom line. It's not the cash flow. It's their human capital.
The
You want to
people.
make sure, yeah, they're people. If your people are not fully taken care of, if your people are not operating at 100%, it is going to show in your bottom line, right? And I think also companies have to realize that their employees are not showing up like half of an employee. Like they're not just showing up for work mode. There's still life outside of that job that's happening that employees are still carrying inside. So how can we give resources and cater to their mental wellness? How can we give resources and cater to their physical wellness? How can we make sure that the food that we're offering at company parties or even just in a break room, how can we make sure those food choices or those snack items are items that are going to fuel productivity, that's going to fuel their energy, that's now going to trickle into how they perform, how they focus. So it's all a matter of those things. So I kind of went off on a tangent, but yes, being mindful of the nutrition options that you have in the break room, the wellness days, whether it is quarterly. If you have monthly meetings already with the staff, if it's mandatory, how can you incorporate like a mindfulness session? How can you incorporate some type of education or workshop around recognizing the signs of stress, especially for the management team? How can you do that for the leadership team? They are the front line when it comes to like the rest of the team and the staff. Like they should recognize signs of burnout, yes, within themselves, but also within the people that they lead. Okay.
Well,
Because
let's talk about that a little bit because
yeah.
you brought up the B word. I was going to bring it up later,
Okay,
but
sorry.
you
Yeah,
brought it
yeah,
up. Nah, it doesn't matter. Like, let's get to it because burnout, right?
yeah.
And
Hmm.
could you give us maybe like a working definition just for the purpose of this conversation of it? And then how do you maybe separate or identify like, hey, this person, because we all I think everybody that gets a paycheck, there's some elements of stress to your job, whether
Oh,
you
absolutely.
retail, finance, healthcare, uh, whatever. Like we all have that. But burnout, I feel like, is kind of an avoidable end state to
Mhm.
sustain stress a little bit. So, like, how can, if someone's listening right now that is a people leader in an organization, like, what should they be looking at? Like, how can they differentiate between, oh, this person is just, going through some stress or they're working on a stressful project to like, no, this person is about to literally crash out.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm glad that you said that it's an end state because burnout, you don't just all of a sudden wake up having like it is there's levels to this, right? So it's stress, then it's chronic stress, and then it's burnout. So yes, like you said, we all have some type of stress, whether it is, deadlines at work, whether it is projects, things like that. Those are going to be too expected. But we also have to make sure that we are managing the smaller stress things before we get to chronic stress. Chronic stress is just all the different stressors that, pile up that are not addressed. They're not managed. When that happens, that's when burnout happens. So like
It's like sweeping
when
it under the rug.
yeah, and let it compound and compound until yes, you hit that state of burnout. So when you get there, it's kind of like you're feeling disconnected from your work. So if you notice some higher performers that are really not performing at their typical level, if you're seeing that they seem like they're disconnected from the work that they're doing. If you see that they're disconnecting socially, so for someone who used to maybe always go out together for lunch, if they're starting to like back away from social interactions, that could also be a sign of chronic stress going into burnout. Frequent illnesses, frequent illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Clients, not clients, staff that may be complaining of like headaches or even just body aches because of the stress that they're holding. Uh, those type of things, I would say, would
That
be
makes
the
a lot of
biggest.
sense
Yeah.
because I'm thinking through though. I'm auditing my own experience and I've like
Mhm.
experienced all of those things at different portions. And depending on your job too, and perhaps, I know you consult with companies and work with workplace leaders to kind of develop healthy cultures and practices to
Yeah.
support these things, but not everybody's comfortable going to their boss and being like, you know what, I'm kind of at my breaking point. And because a lot of managers themselves, like if you're the people leader and you yourself are about to burn out, I feel like your capacity, empathy, and your resources for recognizing and helping your team through that is probably going to be diminished a little bit.
No, absolutely, which is why it's very important to make sure that those leaders are taking care of themselves. A well balanced leader, that's where your decision making is affected, right? The empathy. Um, if you think about, I don't know if folks, you may relate, you may not relate. If you've ever been at a job where you were like this with your employer or your boss, you would probably say that that boss was very, mentally well, physically well, like they took care of themselves in and outside of the workplace, which reflected on how they led their team. Now,
Yes.
on the flip side, if you've ever felt like you wanted to quit because of an employer, because they're always snappy or X, Y, and Z, you have to think like, how well is this leader actually taking care of themselves? That reflects in how they lead. So it's very important for a company to make sure that their leaders are, yes, well equipped with all the wellness resources and everything in the toolkit, but also making sure that they put that into action. Because if I feel comfortable coming to my boss saying those things, that also a well leader builds trust within their team.
Mm-hmm.
A well leader, builds that trust within their team. So that also now goes to retention. There's just so many things. There's just so many
Yes.
things that now just goes into retention. But yeah, it always should start at the top.
It's
It's
all connected.
always,
Yeah, we've
yeah.
seen that. There's no way a person who is I mean, there's already if you remove that portion, there's already so many things to stay on top of as a leader to try to get the best out of your people. You know, great incentives, paying them well. You know, how you structure their work environment, the flexibility. There's a lot of things that goes into that. But then, just from this perspective, yeah, I think that people leaders it's going to be difficult and challenging if they're not leading from the front with that. And so,
Mhm.
is that your approach? Like when companies and organizations bring you in, who do you prefer starting with or working with? Is it, hey, let's make sure that the leaders, you know, are equipped to effectively navigate, or is it both, like you're working with, you know, employee populations and leaders at the same time? Like what is your kind of entry point? And as we wrap up the conversation, we may have people here now who are listening to this and thinking like, oh man, you know, I might want to have a conversation with this lady. Like, what's the best way to kind of start that process?
I cannot believe time is almost up. I feel like we're just getting started because there's still so much to say.
Part two, we're bringing you
No,
back.
literally, it's gonna have to be because what in the world? Yeah, so my approach, it just kind of depends on the company. I have had instances where, you know, I usually deal directly with HR or um the people and culture leaders, but I've done both. We've come in and done like a half day wellness day for the leadership and the staff all in one. So, you know, if the leadership team is coming, their team is going to come too, right? But
Yep.
then I've also done on the flip side where we deal directly with the executive team, making sure that they're equipped, doing all the things for them, and then introducing it to their team. So it just
Okay.
kind of depends on the company and how they want to approach that.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
a great conversation. And so, how should folks reach out to you? I know we're going to put all your information in the comments, website, social medias, but
Yeah.
what would you want people to do to reach out, or either side, whether they're on the corporate side or they are a? Do you work specifically with women on the personal client side or
I would
impact fitness?
Well, I would say most of my clients are women, but I'm definitely open to, you know, the fellas if you want to come on board. But I would say primarily women in leadership are most of our clients.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Just so people know, because I know individuals sometimes like people wait into these. I don't know if people are still doing these new year, new me, but I don't think you should wait to the new year. So I think you could start the clock, the personal clock for yourself could start at any time. So
Literally.
we have folks reach
Don't get
out
me
to.
started on that, child. Don't get me started on that. But yes, you can literally start today.
And to that end, any final words of wisdom? First of all, great conversation. Learned a little about your journey. We talked about some workplace best practices. We talked about identifying stress versus burnout, what leaders could do to support their employees for that, some simple things that all of us can do. Looking at me parking, stop trying to park at the closest parking spot. And you get less dents anyway, and people
Okay,
hitting your
that
car.
part.
It works for everybody. But any final words of advice for folks watching this as we close out?
Um, and I think I mentioned it prior, but start small. Start small. And this is yes for an individual client, but also on the corporate side. I feel like most people think we have to do this grand change, doing all these different things in our schedule or doing all these different programs in our business or in the business to, you know, start a wellness program. You don't. You can start small. So whatever that small is for you, if you're not working out at all, start with walking 10 minutes a day. And
Mm,
then you build from there. For a company, if you don't have anything, start with a simple lunch and learn, right? August is National Wellness Month. September is Self-Care Awareness Month. October 10th is Mental Health Awareness Day, right? What can you do as far as like a lunch and learn centered around those things to start slowly introducing these active, engaging wellness initiatives. We don't have to do a whole big thing, but what can you do to start something to at least get the ball rolling? So start small, build from there.
I love walking because walking is like you can you don't need any equipment, you don't need anybody's permission, like unless it's raining, and even then you could probably still pull it off. But like walking is just like
Absolutely.
always available to you.
Yeah, it's walking is honestly the most underrated exercise there is. It's something that you can do every day without having to worry about recovering like you would in the gym. Yes, like you said, it's easily accessible. It's free. You can do it all the time. It's very underrated. So if you could start there, start there.
Tyneka Pack, Impact Fitness in the building. We gotta come back for part two.
No, we do. There's so much to say.
It's so little time. Thank you so much for joining us. Y'all make sure y'all follow, connect with her. Let's get the wellness conversations up within the corporate spaces. I did not know that August was, you said,
Wellness
fitness
month.
wellness
August
month.
is Wellness Month, and September is Self Care Awareness Month.
Perfect time to lock in, y'all.
Yes.
We'll see you next time on
Yeah.
the Bulls Report. Have a great day.